I paid every bill while my parents retired early, but they still asked me to move out so my golden boy brother could move back in, and then they had the nerve to ask if I'd keep paying the mortgage for him. I didn't say a word until the night I packed everything and left. Hey everyone, let's talk about family dynamics, specifically when you're the forgotten kid. My older brother Chase was the ultimate golden child. Seriously, my mom made it obvious he was the favorite from day one. Every tiny thing he did was celebrated like he'd found a cure for something. Me? I could have won a Nobel Prize and probably just gotten an "oh, that's nice, honey." Like, did you hear Chase got a B+ in math? That was my life. Growing up, everything revolved around Chase. He always got the newest toys, first pick of everything, and never shared. I remember at 5 begging to watch The Little Mermaid, but Chase insisted on Jurassic Park. Guess what was on? My mom's reasoning? Well, he's older, sweetie. That pretty much summed up my entire childhood. When Chase finally went to college, I thought I'd get a break. Nope. My mom acted like the world was ending. She was heartbroken, constantly talking about missing her baby boy and how quiet the house was without him. I was still living there, by the way, but apparently I didn't count. She'd call him multiple times a day, email constantly, and send weekly care packages. I've never received one in my life, but Chase needed one every 7 days. After Chase graduated, he got engaged to his longtime girlfriend, Harper. She's genuinely nice, no issues there, but that engagement brought out a whole new level of bizarre in my mom. She treated it like her own wedding, obsessing over venues, decorations, and even bought a dress that looked suspiciously bridal. Harper was gracious, but you could tell she wasn't thrilled about my mom trying to steal the spotlight. Chase and Harper eventually settled in Austin after they married, a good distance from us here in North Carolina. I figured maybe my mom would finally focus on her own life. Again, no. Instead, she started dreaming about them moving back. She has this elaborate fantasy of a big, multi-generational household where she's the doting grandma to a bunch of grandkids. Never mind, Chase and Harper don't even have kids yet. While all this was happening, I stayed local for college. It made financial sense, and I thought it'd be good to help my parents as they got older. After graduating, I got a decent job nearby and kept living at home. It was convenient, a 15-minute drive to work, and I figured I could save money while helping out. Plus, my parents had hinted several times they'd leave me the house. My mom used to say, "One day this place will be yours, and your dad and I will move to Texas to be closer to Chase and Harper's kids." Of course, that was before it became clear there weren't any grandkids coming soon. For the past few years, I've been covering most household expenses. My parents retired early, and their savings weren't enough, so I've been the one keeping the lights on, buying groceries, and paying the bills. It hasn't been easy, but I didn't mind too much. I thought I was doing the right thing, supporting my family. Besides, Chase wasn't chipping in. He barely visits. Last time I saw him was Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and he mostly just complained about his life in Texas. Now you'd think my parents would appreciate me holding down the fort all these years. Nope. My mom spends most of her time talking about missing Chase and wishing he'd move back. It's exhausting. Every dinner, it's, "Do you think Chase and Harper will ever move back? It would be so lovely to have them here, wouldn't it?" She even suggested converting a spare room into a nursery for future grandkids. Never mind, they don't have a spare room because Chase's old bedroom became a home office years ago. Speaking of that home office, after Chase moved, my dad remodeled his old room into a fully decked-out office for my mom, with a custom desk and built-in shelves. My mom loves it for her hobbies. For a while, it seemed like she was finally shifting focus. But then Thanksgiving happened, and Chase made an offhand comment about how weird it felt not having his old room. My mom latched onto that and spent the next month trying to convince my dad to change the office back into a bedroom, just in case Chase ever returned. He didn't, thankfully. Anyway, that brings us to the present. Things were quiet until recently, but then my mom started acting weird. She dropped hints about big changes coming soon and asked me, "Have you ever thought about living on your own?" The other night, she casually suggested it might be time for me to look for my own place, to settle down. At first, I thought she was being supportive, but now I wasn't so sure. As the days passed, her hints went from casual to straight-up invasive. She kept asking, "Do you ever feel like you're missing out on life?" Or, "Wouldn't it be fun to decorate your own apartment?" I didn't think much of it, but then she started leaving rental listings on the kitchen counter. Seriously, printouts with circled addresses and notes like, "Great location," and "Close to work." It was bizarre, but I didn't confront her. I didn't want to believe she was actively trying to push me out, but things got much clearer when my dad started making comments too. My dad's usually the quieter one, avoids drama. So when he suddenly started saying, "You're not a kid anymore. Don't you want your own space?" Or, "You can't live with your parents forever. You need to get married or find your own place," I knew something was definitely up. For context, I'm 27. Maybe living with parents isn't ideal, but I was doing it for practical reasons. I wasn't freeloading, I was paying for everything. The setup worked because I was footing the bills while they enjoyed early retirement. So why the sudden push? Then, one night, everything clicked. We were at dinner, and my mom casually said, "You know, Chase and Harper are thinking about moving back to North Carolina. Wouldn't it be lovely to have the whole family together again?" She said it with a huge smile. I didn't react much at first, wanting to see where she was going. Sure enough, she kept talking. "It's just that we don't have much room here anymore," she said, glancing at me like I was the problem. "If they moved back, we'd have to make some adjustments. Maybe we could even turn your room into a nursery someday." I just sat there processing. My room? The one I've been paying to keep a roof over? Now it's a future nursery for Chase's hypothetical kids? It felt like a direct insult, but I didn't say anything. My dad chimed in. "It's something to think about. You're doing great at work. You could afford a nice place of your own." I felt frustration building, but I stayed quiet. I wanted to hear their whole plan. Over the next few days, they kept dropping more hints. My mom brought up converting the home office back into a bedroom, just in case Chase and Harper needed it. She even talked about how exciting it would be to have a full house again, as if I wasn't already living there. It became painfully obvious this wasn't just casual daydreaming. They were serious about Chase and Harper moving in. The part that really stung was how little they seemed to care about my role in all this. I've been supporting them for years. I'm the reason the mortgage gets paid, utilities stay on, and there's food in the fridge. Chase hasn't contributed a dime to this household since he moved to Texas. And now, because he might move back, they're ready to kick me out like I'm an overstayed guest. It wasn't just about the money, either. It was how they talked about Chase, like he was the second coming. My mom kept going on about how hard it must be for him to be so far from family. "He's always been such a family-oriented person," she said the other day, as if the man didn't willingly move to another state and barely call home. Meanwhile, I've been right here, doing everything to help, and it's like none of that matters. What really got to me was overhearing my mom on the phone with a friend. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but she was loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. She was gushing about how perfect it would be if Chase moved back, and how she couldn't wait to have Harper around to help with the cooking. She didn't mention me once, my name, my contributions, nothing. It was like I didn't even exist in her vision of the future. The next day, my mom sat me down for a family discussion. My dad was there, but as usual, he let her do most of the talking. She started by saying how proud they were and how much they appreciated everything I've done. It sounded nice, but then she pivoted to the real topic, Chase and Harper. "We've been talking about how to make this house work for everyone," she said. "And we think it might be time for you to spread your wings." I asked what she meant, even though I knew. "Well," she said, with Chase and Harper potentially coming back, "it'll be a little crowded, but we think it's a good opportunity for you to find your own place and start living independently." She said it like it was some generous gift, as if pushing me out of the house I'd been paying for was doing me a favor. I stayed calm and asked about the bills. My mom smiled and said, "Oh, we were hoping you could keep contributing for a while, just until Chase and Harper get settled." Yeah, because that made perfect sense. They wanted me to move out but still pay the bills so Chase and Harper could live rent-free. I don't even know if Chase had officially agreed to move back, but they were already rolling out the red carpet for him. At this point, it was hard to keep my emotions in check. I asked why Chase couldn't just get a place nearby, if he really wanted to come back. My mom sighed and said, "It's not that simple. They're going through a lot right now, and they need family support. You wouldn't understand. You've always been so independent." She said it like it was a bad thing, like my independence was a flaw. The conversation ended with her asking me to think about it. I didn't say much. I was too angry to trust myself to respond without completely losing it. Afterward, I went to my room, pacing, trying to figure out what to do. I've never felt so hurt and unappreciated. It was like everything I'd done meant absolutely nothing compared to having Chase back under their roof. Ever since that conversation, I kept going back and forth between being hurt and furious. It was hard to focus on anything else. Every time I looked around the house, I thought about how much of it I kept running. The fridge was stocked because of me. The power stayed on because of me. The Wi-Fi they used to binge-watch shows all day? Me. But apparently, none of that mattered because the golden child might be coming back. For the next week, things at home were weird. My parents were clearly waiting for my decision, but I wasn't ready to give them an answer. They kept acting, like nothing was wrong, which made it worse. My mom was humming while making dinner, asking about work, like she hadn't just asked me to uproot my life for Chase. My dad mostly avoided me, typical when things got tense. Meanwhile, I started quietly, preparing for what I knew I needed to do. I figured out my options. I knew I couldn't keep living in a house where I was treated like an afterthought. Even if I stayed, the dynamic would never change, and I'd just be delaying the inevitable. So, I started looking for apartments. It wasn't easy. Most places near my job were either ridiculously expensive or had horror story reviews. But I eventually found a small, reasonably priced place close enough to walk to work. The idea of no traffic almost made me smile. Once I decided to move, I realized how much I had to do. First, all my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, bank info. Everything had to come with me. No giving my parents any excuse to hold something over my head. I started packing little by little, late at night when everyone was asleep, to avoid a big scene. During this time, I started seeing someone, and having my own place where I could just be myself was priceless. The apartment was fully furnished, so I moved in right away. As I was planning all this, I started noticing things I hadn't paid much attention to before, like how much of the furniture was technically mine. Even the microwave was something I picked up during a Black Friday sale because ours had stopped working. The more I looked around, the more I realized how much I'd contributed to this house, and it just made me angrier. How could they ask me to leave when so much of this place was held together by me? A few days before I planned to move, I overheard another conversation between my mom and Chase. She was on the phone, gushing about how excited she was for him to come home. She kept saying, "Don't worry about anything, sweetie. We'll figure it all out, and we'll make sure you and Harper have everything you need." It was like she had already decided I was gone, and Chase was moving in, even though I hadn't told her anything yet. That was the final push I needed. The night I moved out was emotional, but not how you'd think. I waited until midnight to start loading my car. I'm dramatic like that. My parents were asleep. I wanted to avoid confrontation. I'd already signed the lease and had the keys, so nothing was holding me back. Packing my car was surreal. I couldn't believe how much stuff I had accumulated. It felt strange to see my life reduced to boxes and bags. Once everything was loaded, I sat in the driver's seat for a moment and just breathed. I thought I'd feel sad or guilty, but all I felt was relief. I was finally doing something for myself, and it felt incredibly good. Before I pulled out, I sent a quick text to my mom. "I've moved out. The bills are your responsibility now. Good luck with that." Not the most graceful exit, but they didn't deserve much more. The next morning, my phone blew up with calls and messages from my mom. Several voicemails, each more frantic. The first was just, "What's going on? Did you leave? Call me back." By the third, she was yelling, demanding to know where I was and why I hadn't told her. I didn't respond. I blocked her, my dad, and Chase on every platform I could think of. I even blocked Harper just to be safe. I knew they'd try to guilt trip me, and I wasn't letting that happen. I focused on adjusting to my new apartment. It was small but cozy, and it already felt more like home than my parents' house ever did. I spent the first night unpacking and setting up my space. It was a little overwhelming, but also exciting. I finally had a place entirely mine, where I didn't have to walk on eggshells or deal with constant comparisons to Chase. The next day, I called a few close friends. They were all supportive, saying they couldn't believe how my parents had treated me. One friend even offered to help decorate, which was really nice. It felt good to know I had people in my corner. But just as I was settling into my new life, I got a call that threw me off. It was from a neighbor back at my parents' house. She wanted to check on me because she'd overheard a big fight between Chase and Harper the day before. Apparently, Chase and Harper had already arrived, and things weren't going smoothly. After hearing about the fight, I felt a weird mix of relief and dread. Part of me thought, good, let them deal with their own chaos now. But another part couldn't stop wondering what was happening. I tried to push it out of my mind, but of course, my family wasn't about to let me go that easily. A few days later, my Aunt Clara called out of nowhere. She's technically my mom's cousin, but we all call her Aunt Clara. She's a busybody who loves getting involved. Honestly, I'd been avoiding her because I knew she'd side with my parents. Sure enough, as soon as I picked up, she launched into a lecture. "Here's what I just found out from a 2-hour phone call that nearly blew out my right eardrum," she said, skipping any greeting. Your mother is heartbroken, you know. She's been crying nonstop since you left. How could you do this to her? To them? I took a deep breath. Clara, I didn't do anything to them. I just moved out. They're adults. They can handle it. She scoffed. Moved out? You abandoned them when they needed you most. Do you even know what's happening over there? I rolled my eyes, but something in her tone caught my attention. What are you talking about? I asked. There was a pause. The house. They're behind on the mortgage. Your parents are on the verge of losing it now. This was news to me. What mortgage? I asked, confused. They paid off the house years ago. That's what you think? Clara said, clearly enjoying the drama. They took out a second mortgage a couple of years ago. Apparently it was to help Chase and Harper. I can't believe you didn't know. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything, processing. A second mortgage? For Chase and Harper? And I'd been unknowingly paying it off this whole time, completely oblivious? Clara kept talking, something about me needing to come back and fix this because family sticks together. I hung up on her mid-sentence, probably the rudest thing I've ever done, but I didn't care. I needed answers. The next day, I went to the bank. I wanted to confirm what Clara said, hoping she was exaggerating. But nope. The teller confirmed a second mortgage on the house. It had been taken out 2 years ago, payments automatically withdrawn, from the account I'd been depositing into monthly. All this time, I thought I was just covering utilities and groceries. Turns out I was also paying for a mortgage I didn't even know existed. The rage I felt was indescribable. Not just that they'd lied, but that they'd taken advantage of me for years without a second thought. I'd been working hard, budgeting, skipping luxuries to support them. And they used that money to bail out Chase and Harper. Every bad feeling I'd ever had about being second to Chase was suddenly validated in the absolute worst way. I went home that night and just sat in my apartment. All I could think about was how stupid I'd been to trust them. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had about money, wondering how I didn't see the signs. My mom always made offhand comments about how tight things were, but insisted everything was fine when I offered more help. Now I knew why. They didn't want me asking questions. The worst part was realizing how much they must have given to Chase and Harper. My parents aren't financially savvy, so I wouldn't be surprised if they gave Chase the bulk of the loan in one big chunk. And knowing Chase, he probably blew through it without a second thought. I debated confronting my parents, but I wasn't sure I could handle the conversation without losing my temper. Plus, I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of thinking I was coming back to help. They made this mess. They have to clean it up. Still, I couldn't help but feel deeply hurt. It's one thing to play favorites. It's another to lie to your kid and use their money to cover your mistakes. Over the aita. Next few days, I started getting more calls from family. Clara must have told everyone because suddenly, I was the villain. My uncle left a voicemail saying I needed to step up and do the right thing. Another cousin texted me, calling me selfish for abandoning my parents when they were struggling and saying I left them on the verge of homelessness with nothing. It was like they were all reading from the same script. What none of them seemed to understand was that this wasn't just about money. It was about years of being treated like I didn't matter. It was about always being expected to sacrifice for Chase while he got a free pass. And now they wanted me to come back and fix everything because they couldn't admit they'd screwed up? No thanks. Still, part of me couldn't stop thinking about the house being in jeopardy. As much as I wanted to just let them deal with the fallout, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen if they actually lost it. Would they come crawling back, begging for help? Would Chase step up for once? Or would they all just blame me for not swooping in? I didn't have answers yet, but one thing was sure. I was not going to be their safety net anymore. They'd burned that bridge the moment they decided Chase's comfort was more important than my trust. I'll keep you guys posted. Update 1. Hey guys, I'm back with an update. Here's where things stand. After weeks of silence from my parents, I got an unexpected letter from the bank. Yep, the same one that confirmed the second mortgage. It was a notice about missed payments on the house. Foreclosure was looming. The letter was addressed to me because, surprise, I was still listed as the primary contributor on their account. I don't know if it was a clerical error or some messed up manipulation tactic, but they never removed me after I moved out. I was furious. Not enough that they'd lied and used my money for Chase. They also dragged me into their financial disaster. I called the bank to clarify I was no longer involved, but since payments had come from my account for so long, I was technically tied to the mortgage. The representative kindly explained my parents could lose the house unless overdue payments were covered immediately. She even asked if I'd like to make a payment right then. I almost laughed at the audacity. At first, I told myself I wasn't doing anything. Let the house go. Let them figure out where to live. But as much as I wanted to let it all burn, a part of me couldn't let go of the house that was promised to be mine. I grew up there. I'd put so much money into it, countless memories. And let's be realistic. If my parents lost the house, they'd just show up at my doorstep, guilt-tripping me into taking them in. Chase would probably bring Harper along too. No way was I signing up for that nightmare. So after a lot of thinking and venting to friends, I came up with a plan. If I was going to get involved, it would be on my terms. I wasn't about to bail them out without something significant. If they wanted to keep the house, it was going to become mine. The next day, I went back to the bank to figure out my options. Buying the house outright was possible, but it would require my parents to transfer the title to me. Basically, I'd become their landlord. The idea was both satisfying and a little daunting, but I knew it was the best way to protect myself. If they couldn't handle the responsibility, I'd take it out of their hands permanently. Armed with this plan, I went back to my parents' house for the first time since I left. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. As soon as I walked in, my mom tried to hug me, but I sidestepped her and went straight to the kitchen table where Chase and Harper were sitting. Chase was scrolling through his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. Harper looked stressed, but didn't say much. My dad was off to the side, pretending to read the newspaper. I laid it all out for them. I told them about the foreclosure notice, the missed payments, and how the bank contacted me. My mom tried to interrupt with an excuse about things being tight, but I shut her down. I don't want to hear it, I said. You lied to me about the mortgage, used my money without telling me, and now you're expecting me to clean up your mess? Here's the deal. I'll save the house, but only if you sign it over to me. The room went dead silent. My dad was first. That's ridiculous, he said. This house is our legacy. You can't just take it from us. Your legacy? I shot back. You put this house at risk the moment you took out that second mortgage to help Chase. You've done nothing but take advantage of me for years, and now you're facing the consequences. Either sign it over or lose it. Chase finally looked up from his phone, glaring. You're seriously trying to steal the house? Wow, real classy. You always were jealous of me. I laughed in his face. Jealous of what? Your freeloading lifestyle? Please, I'm offering a solution to a problem you helped create. If you don't like it, feel free to pack your bags and find somewhere else to live. Harper looked like she wanted to say something but held back. I couldn't blame her. She was clearly stuck in the middle. My mom started crying, of course, but I didn't let it sway me. I'd seen that act too many times. It's your choice, I said, standing up. Sign the house over or let the bank take it. I don't care which. I gave them a week to decide. During that time, I kept getting calls from my mom, begging me to reconsider. She tried every tactic, guilt, anger, manipulation, but I didn't budge. I told her the same thing every time. I'll take care of the house if it's mine, otherwise I'm out. Eventually, they caved. My dad called me a few days later saying they were ready to sign the paperwork. I think the reality of losing the house finally hit them hard. They didn't want to move, and they definitely didn't want to rely on Aunt Clara or anyone else. Chase wasn't happy, but there wasn't much he could do. Harper, surprisingly, seemed almost relieved. I think she saw this as a chance to escape the chaos, even if she didn't say it outright. Once the paperwork was finalized, the house was officially mine. I made it clear my parents could stay as long as they followed my rules. They had to keep up with their share of the bills from their retirement funds, and Chase would have to start paying rent if he wanted to stay. No exceptions. Chase, of course, threw a massive tantrum. He called me every name in the book, accusing me of being selfish and ruining the family. I just shrugged it off. I'd spent enough of my life trying to please them, and I wasn't going to waste any more energy on his whining. As for my parents, they seemed to accept the new arrangement, but things were definitely strained. My mom barely spoke to me unless necessary, and my dad kept his distance. I could tell they resented me for taking control, but frankly, I didn't care. For the first time, I felt like I finally had the upper hand. The fallout wasn't pretty, but I didn't regret my decision for a second. I'd spent years being taken for granted, and it was time for me to take back what I deserved. The house was mine now, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. I'll post a final update once I see how things go. Final update. Hey everyone, it's been a while and things have changed quite a bit. I wanted to wrap everything up for those of you who followed this mess. So, here's where things stand now. After I officially took over the house, things were tense, as expected. Chase was furious. He called me names, accused me of being greedy, and even tried to guilt-trip our parents into siding with him. None of it worked. They knew the alternative was losing the house entirely, and I think they finally realized how serious I was about not letting them walk all over me anymore. Chase refused to pay rent. He said it was disrespectful for me to charge him anything, and acted like contributing was beneath him. So I gave him a deadline: pay up or get out. He didn't believe I'd follow through. But the day after his rent was due, I filed for eviction. He threw a fit and packed his bags, dragging Harper with him. Harper, though, didn't stick around with Chase for long. A few weeks later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she left him. She got a new job, found her own place, and seems to be doing well. I can't say I blame her. She was stuck in an impossible situation with him. Good for her for getting out. As for my parents, they've stayed in the house under my conditions. They handled their share of the bills now, though there's still some underlying resentment. I think my mom's fantasy of having Chase and Harper living close by is officially dead, and she doesn't quite know how to handle it. My dad, to his credit, has kept things civil. We're not exactly close, but at least we're not at each other's throats anymore. Honestly, things are much calmer now. The house is quieter, and I'm finally starting to feel like I have genuine control over my life again. It's not perfect. Family relationships rarely are. But I don't regret the decisions I made. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm not just a supporting character in someone else's story. I'm finally the main character in my own life.